good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, share, like, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. So today we're going to be looking at the classical political economy. Okay, so the classical political economy was developed in the late 18th and early 19th century by Adam Smith, David Ricardo, Thomas Malthus, John Stuart Mill, and J. Baptiste Say. The theoretical perspective of the classical political economy is based on the innate goodness of individuals. This theory believes that the economy will thrive best when it is not encumbered by the restriction created by the state. Rather, it should be left to the whims and caprices of the forces of demand and supply. Okay, so those are the things. So when we're talking about the classical political economy, we're actually looking at the ideas of people like Adam Smith, David Ricardo, just like I've mentioned above. Okay, so now we're going to be taking their contributions one after the other. So the first person we're going to be looking at is Adam Smith. Now, Adam Smith was actually a Scottish, philosopher. He was actually known for his classic works, okay, the theory of moral sentiment, written in 1759, and an inquiry into the nature and wealth of nations, which was written in 1776. In his idea, Adam Smith presented the comprehensive analysis and actions, okay, guided by individual self-interest, which is laissez-faire, in a laissez-faire environment. Okay, he went further, in his analysis that the wealth of the nations was based on on productivity of resources, which is best achieved if producers, consumers, and resource owners are left to their selfish actions. Okay, he further asserted that resource owners should be left on their own, and then that the efficient allocation of resources and high standard of living and economic growth are achieved if producers sought to sought higher profits and consumers sought greater satisfaction. Okay, so according to him, higher profits motivate producers to offer the most desired goods at the lowest expenses, and on the other hand, greater satisfaction motivates the consumers to seek the most desired goods at the less expenses, and of course the result is the best and better efficient use of available resources. According to Adam Smith, the market generally regulate themselves when free of coercion, which is what is known as the invisible hand. So when the market is actually free of coercion, it is actually known as the invisible hand, because there will be healthy competition. And when there is competition, what naturally happens is that there's going to be quality products, quality goods and services that are actually in competition, and so there will be the crash in prices of goods and services. Okay, so now he warned against monopoly and stressed the importance of competition, because it is only in competition that that the healthy competition that the economy can actually grow. Because of course, if you're actually competing to be better, and I'm competing to be better, the other person competes to be better, at the end of the day, what happens is that there will be healthy progress in the society. Now, the next person we're going to be looking at is David Ricardo. Now, what is David Ricardo's contribution to the classical political economy? Don't forget that David Ricardo was an English political economist. He was one of the most influential, you know, of the classic political economy. Okay, you know. Now, after political economists, after reading The Wealth of Nations of Adam Smith, he became interested in economics and wrote his famous work, Principles of Political Economy and Taxation, in 1817. In his work, he expressed the labor theory of value, theories of rent, and then wages and profits. He was more famous, with the theory of comparative advantage, which states that a nation should specialize in the production of those industries or those goods and services in which it is most internationally competitive, according to him. Now, such a nation should then trade with other nations to import those products that is no longer, that it no longer specializes on. Okay, so those are the things. That is the theory of comparative advantage, that a nation should specialize on the production of those goods and services that it has comparative advantage in, in its production. In which case, if Nigeria produces oil at a cheaper rate, okay, than gold, okay, which Ghana produces at a cheaper rate. Now, because Nigeria has a comparative advantage in the production of crude oil, Nigeria should actually leave the production of gold for what? For Ghana. Okay, and Ghana should leave the production of crude oil for Nigeria. Both countries should cooperate to import those products that they do not have comparative advantage in. Okay, so the third person we're going to be looking at is Thomas Malthus. Now, Thomas Malthus was concerned about the scarcity of resources and how it might affect the distribution of wealth. In his work, Principles of Population, written in 1798, he argues that primary threat to society was overpopulation. He asserted that population of a people would double after every 15 years. He also went ahead to say that when population increases at arithmetic progression and food increases at that rate, it is optimum population. But as the population increases, if the food production per person decreases, then there is imminent crisis, and it is called law of diminishing return. He was concerned that the mass poverty associated with rapid population increases would ultimately lead to political revolution, in a particular society. So what he was actually interested in is actually food production, because when the population keeps increasing and the food production is not commensurate to the increase in population, then there's going to be crisis certainly. Now, what are the major features of the classical political economy? What are the major features? Number one, the classical political economists, actually canvassed for government regulations to avoid the manipulation of the system. Okay, so this invisible hand can actually be manipulated. No, the classicalists, they are not actually, in fact, they are not canvassing for government regulation per se. They are actually looking at, government minimalist intervention. Government should just provide the enabling environment for businesses to thrive rather than regulating the economy. That is number one. Number two, they are actually talking about the rights of individuals and canvassed for the forces of demand and supply to control the market. Okay, so that is actually number two. Number three, they are actually talking about capitalism they favor capitalism that is rooted in liberal democracy. They actually encourage countries to actually practice capitalism that is rooted in liberal democracy. The next one is that they talk about the primacy of the private sector, the primacy of the private sector, and that the private sector should actually have the control of the commanding height of the economy. Okay, the next one is that they advocated for liberalization of the economies of states, and that states should have no business in business. States should not have business in business. They also, number six, they canvass for the forces of demand and supply, profits, accumulation of capital, and surplus value. Should actually characterize the economy of such states, or of states that of all states. That is actually what the classicalists are actually very much interested in. Thank you very much.